Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the AD is in the HD, the true crime is as scary as the ghost stories, and the hosts are as cunning as foxes. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em.
And I'm Meg.
Now on to the show.
Oh, delicious.
I freaking love pot roast, man. Let me tell you.
Same though.
So when I went to the base commissary, that's how you say it, right? The commissary.
Yes.
They had meat on sale, and I got a pot roast for $5.83.
Yes. I told you.
I got two.
Always hit up their meat department just to see.
Well, and I got 2 flats of chicken, 2 large flats of chicken that normally cost me $20. $12 total for 2 large flats.
I tried to tell you.
Man.
You were missing out on the commissary.
Just on Wednesdays. They make most of the meat half off.
Yeah, because otherwise it'll go, it'll turn over, or like the for sale date will be like over the weekend where, the butcher's not on sale or not on site. So
I was like, the butcher can't be on sale. Hello, my name is Mark. I specialize in
They might be.
And thighs. Specialize in thighs.
They might be. I don't know.
And then my husband brought me Shipley donuts. Sneakily ordered them yesterday. Which Shipley is normally an East Coast thing, but they have one location in San Francisco. One. And of course, it was down the street from my house in Japantown. Which is kind of funny. That place is like a hole in the wall.
Of course.
And they're not like, they're not mushy. Like most donuts are mushy.
They're just right.
Yeah.
The amount of the yeast in the dough makes it perfect.
Yeah, they're pretty damn perfect. So we have our librarian standing in. She is going to be mute most of the episode, unless she has something she wants to say, in which case she will unmute herself. But we do have an on podcast librarian. Let's just give it up for the let's give it up for the
so excited.
I know.
Putting in park helps.
Yeah, so Sam was on our last episode that we had with Emily.
Yes.
She's our on-site fact checker. Did you have a good night at work?
I did.
Oh, good. Oh, she's going home. Oh, she's home. She's not at work. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so when Sister Doctor was in San Diego with boyfriend's work trip, she went to the San Diego Zoo, and they had ravens in the enclosure with the condors. And she was like, the birds at the old house were definitely crows. And I said, yeah, ravens are huge. And she went, yeah, I mean, they're definitely bigger than the crows here, but it doesn't appear by much. And I said, their wingspan is what makes the difference up.
Yep.
And she went, because the crows here are also rather large, but that's probably it. That's, the wingspan. She went, anyways, I got to see their tails in flight. And I was like, yes, I fully understand now.
Yeah, they're quite huge.
Right.
They're rather large. San Diego Zoo. I was telling her that San Diego Zoo is one of my. Oh, I got a purple pack. San Diego Zoo is one of my favorite places to go to, and they have a manatee. I don't know if they still have her there, but yes, they have a manatee, and her name is Bertha, and she is like 48, 49. She was a baby when I went there. She was still pretty young. And I was like,
I'm surprised they only have one. They usually need companions.
right, but she was separate because she had just been born.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she was freshly
A
baked.
wee little baby.
Freshly
A wee
baked.
little sea potato.
But I
Wee
was
little sea potat.
I wasn't able to go to the main manatee exhibit because it was closed. Because they were cleaning the big tank. They had to drain it and then clean it and then refill it and re-put plants in there. It was a whole ordeal.
All the water.
All the water. But I mean, I went when it was raining too, which that's the days that they normally clean everything out.
Yeah, because there's not much else to do.
Right.
The animals don't want to get out in the rain, so they want to stay inside. So best time to do the enclosures.
Right. And I was like, I mean, I want to pet a sea cow. And they were like, you're not allowed to pet sea cows. And I was like, don't tell me what to do. Apparently they can tell you what to do. There's security.
Yeah, it's a federal crime.
I did not know. In Florida, it's a federal crime. But, I mean, in everywhere else, is it a federal?
They're endangered.
But they have the petting zoo in...
Sea potats are on the endangered species list.
Okay, then why do they have a petting zoo in Florida?
Not of the sea potats.
Yes.
You are not allowed to touch them.
You can go feed them. You could feed the sea potats.
Feeding them is entirely different than touching them.
I want to pet a sea potat.
They can pet you. You cannot pet it. And they fully know this because they will latch onto divers. Like, you can go swim with them. I say swim with them loosely because basically you're snorkeling in the same area as them, and the sea potats fully know you're there and know that you cannot touch them, and they will come up to you and try to get pets from you.
Right.
Like, I saw one video where like one just completely wrapped itself around a diver's leg, and they couldn't do anything about it until the sea potat let go, because you can't touch it. And
right.
So it's the saying, you cannot touch them, but they can touch you, and they will.
Oh my goodness.
And it's hilarious.
Jesus criminy Christmas. So we have a fun little story today. Not really fun. But a movie. Slightly.
Fun is relative.
Fun is relative. We are discussing murder, but it is a very sad case. It involves children. But it's not, I don't go into graphic detail. So we're just going to put that out there. But instead of putting the normal trigger warning, I'm going to tell everybody what it is. Right, meow?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be discussing Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins Jr.
Because that part's important.
Yes. Not his father. His father was a poor, lowly farmer. He was known as the meanest man in America, Redneck Charles Manson, or the vampire. He was only 5'4", so he was taller than me, which that's not hard to do. Sam is taller than me. Weighed around 100 and weighed around 155 pounds at his heaviest. The story contains what he was guilty of, which is rape, child abuse, murder, bigamy, assault, and insurance fraud.
I feel like he missed a few in there.
Are you biting your hand? Are you saying cannibalism? Yeah, no, I know. But we've already discussed cannibals on the show. It's a thing, you know. Buffalo Bill likes you because you recycle.
No response.
So, Pee-wee was often described as a master manipulator and a con artist. He was street smart, and he had a keen sense of humor and a friendly, entertaining personality. He was known as the American serial killer and rapist from South Carolina, who stabbed, shot, drowned, and poisoned more than a dozen people. I know, a male serial killer who poisoned.
That's usually the women that do that.
Right, okay. Before he was finally convicted, Pee-wee had a long rap sheet and a long history of criminal activities, which resulted in prison sentences for assault, burglary, and statutory rape. You just gotta sprinkle some statutory in there.
Because he just wants to check off all the boxes.
Right. So his final arrest was contributing to the delinquency of a minor, Kim Gaskins, who was 13 years old. She had gone missing September of 1975. So we're going to go back. Because during their search for Kim, police discovered 8 bodies.
Of course they did.
Buried in shallow graves around his home in Prospect, South Carolina.
Because that's usually what happens. They go looking for one person and they find more.
Right. So we know this stuff probably started early on with his family, right?
Always.
So Pee Wee was born March 13th, 1933. A lot of 3s, which is fine. He was born in Florence County, South Carolina, to Yulia Parrott. That's an unfortunate last name. He was the youngest of Parrott's illegitimate children. She had a brood. There was almost a dozen of them. None of them had the same father. He was small for his age and garnered the nickname Pee Wee. Even later, as an adult, he still had small frame and was remarked as very light. So,
I mean, he was 5'4", so I mean,
right, but he was also less than 200 pounds.
He was a small person.
He was a very tiny, fragile little man. Pee Wee's early life was characterized by a great deal of neglect from his mother, abuse from a male figure, most likely a relative, and his mother apparently was so disinterested in him and cared for him so little that the first time he learned about his given name, Donald, was at his hearing. He had no idea what his actual name was.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's just talk about what a peach of a mother his was. When he was 1, Pee Wee drank a bottle of kerosene that his mother left out, which caused him to have convulsions and seizures until the age of 3. So he consumed. And it didn't kill him.
I mean, that's why they tell you to put, these things up out of reach of children.
Right. It's like Tide Pods and the millennials, but, whatever. Not millennials.
You lock your cabinets.
Right.
And put things out of reach.
So because of this, because of his upbringing and his mother and his kids, brothers, all of that fun stuff, he went on a violent crime spree when he was a child with a bunch of fellow delinquents. Excuse me, I dropped something. This included burglaries, assaults, and, you guessed it, gang rape. Because of course, we talked about it earlier, statutory rape, but there's not just one person involved in these, which is Pee Wee. There is now 3. So there are 3 delinquents, all right? When he was just 11, he began working at a local garage, which is where he met said delinquents. Boys were named Danny and Marsh. They were all around the same age range, and they were out of school. So 11. They were no longer in school. So correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, our local librarian. Normally around 11 is like 4th grade.
So it's closer to 6th or
Okay.
5th grade.
Okay. So he has a 5th grade education. Okay. All right. So he has a 5th grade education. Okay. So they teamed up and they called themselves the Troubled Trio. This trio burglarized homes, picked up prostitutes, and raped little boys. Yeah.
There it is.
Yep. There it is. They would threaten the little boys in the neighborhood so they wouldn't go to the police. This is why they didn't get caught. But him and his little friends decided to rape a little girl. That's when they got caught.
Of course.
The boys were eventually caught by the local townsfolk, tied up, and were severely beaten by members of the community. Which is good. You fuck around, you find out. Right? So 2 years later, 13, Pee Wee was convicted of assaulting a young woman by hitting her in the head with an axe.
Did she survive?
Yeah, she survived.
Oh, thank God.
She caught him breaking into her family home and was loud and boisterous, and he turned around and cocked her in the head. He was then sentenced to 5 years in a reformatory school. The South Carolina Industrial School for White Boys in Florence, where he was, here we go, regularly raped by his fellow inmates. 13. So the system not only failed him once, but now it's failing him a second time.
It's just domino effect.
Pretty much. Later, though, so it's, let's see here. Let me see if I can do some math. So it's around 49, 48. Because 2 years later, at age 13, Pee Wee was convicted of assaulting a young woman. Nope, we already did that.
A little bit too far back.
A little too far back. Later, which was in 49, he escaped from his reformatory school, wed a childhood friend, and then volunteered to return to school to complete his sentence. We'll come back to that. Pee Wee was released in 51 when he turned 18, and for a period, he worked at a tobacco plantation. This is where the insurance fraud comes in, because he was working with local farmers, burning down their farms for insurance scams. Which...
Why do they always think insurance fraud is the best thing to do?
You know, it was back in the 30s and 40s. They didn't really check their archives. So, this was all short-lived, because in 53, he was arrested again for attacking another teenage girl with a hammer.
First it was an axe, now it's a hammer.
Yes. But this time it wasn't attempted murder, it was suspected assault. Not just assault, no, suspected.
What's to suspect about that? He hit her with a hammer.
Just like I hit my arm with the desk. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison at the South Carolina Penitentiary. So at this point, he's been at the reformatory school. He snuck out and escaped, went back, graduated, and now he's in prison. Hasn't even gone to jail. Just went straight to prison. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
I mean, he was probably in jail while the trial was going on. So.
Well, yeah, obviously. Because, you know,
They just went, we don't want him here. Just send him straight to prison.
Right. So he was the youngest of 10, 12, however many children. It didn't actually list how many children, but they said more than 10. She had more than 10 illegitimate children. He was the youngest. Anyways, once in prison, he garnered respect by killing the top dog inside, as you do. His name was Hazel Brazel. I cannot make this shit up. Look it up, Sam. You can look it up. His name is Hazel Brazel.
Well,
B-A-R.
This sounds like there is a book that I read in high school called Lockdown, where it was basically like a child prison where like they were convicted for like just ridiculous petty crimes, but then they just put them in what amounted to Gen Pop, and it was a fight for yourself because all the guards were worried about, like, okay, you can do whatever you want to each other, and we can do whatever we want to you, but like we're only focused on you not getting out. That's what this feels like.
It very much is, you know.
Lawless. And honestly, it sounds like he never really stood a chance.
He didn't.
Not with being so tiny.
It gets worse.
Of course it does.
Yeah. Most of my cases, it gets worse.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, of course there's always more. So Hazel Brazel.
Holding up bad news.
Right. Hazel Brazel's already dead, right? He's axed.
I can't with the name.
Hazel Brazel. You know, it could be worse.
Somebody's parents hated him.
I know, obviously. Pee-wee claimed self-defense in the killing of Hazel. However, Hazel was taking a moment on the shitter, which was against the wall, so there was no way for him to get his throat sliced unless Pee-wee was sitting on the top of the toilet behind him. Yeah.
Which, I'm curious how the hell, if he was sitting on top of the toilet, how the hell
he slid him from ear to ear, so he went from one side to the other.
But like, how the hell the guy taking, being on the shitter didn't see him going in?
So Hazel was the top dog inside, which means he got his choice of bitches.
That's what I was afraid of.
Pee-wee was one of his bitches.
So he didn't think twice about it.
Not at all. Not at all. It was within, I think, the first 24 to 48 hours that he murdered him. So, because of this self-defense, Pee-wee got an additional 3 years added onto his 6-year sentence.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you murdered somebody.
Well, it was involuntary manslaughter. I'm pretty sure it was very much voluntary manslaughter, but, whatever.
Yeah, but it was literally, nobody's going to testify otherwise.
No, obviously not, because snitches get stitches.
Exactly.
So it was this point, huh?
Or a body bag.
Yeah, or a body bag. What'd you say, Sam?
Or a throat slit, I was going to say.
Or a chain necklace.
No one wanted to admit that they were in that room.
Yeah.
So, it was right after he had killed Hazel, that he became the attacker and not the victim. He was very much adamant on wanting to protect himself. In 55, so just 2 short years later, his wife filed for divorce, which caused him to literally have a fit. All the documentations I saw, he caused a fit.
Like seizure fit or
a temper tantrum?
They're like, okay. I was like, because back then they used to call seizures fits,
Oh no,
so
like
that's why I was like
a full ass, like, I can't believe she's leaving me.
I'm surprised she waited that long.
Right. At which point, right after the divorce, he escaped from prison again.
Did he track her down?
Well, he hid in a garbage truck and fled to Florida and started working with a traveling circus.
Well, I mean, at least he didn't track her down and kill her. So, I mean, there's that.
Not her. No. Huh?
The lack of continuity in his story. It's like it doesn't feel real. What it is.
No, it really doesn't.
It's like a TV soap opera. You never know what's going to happen next.
Yes.
It's a telenova.
It very much is a telenova. I did tell my husband to turn off the fan. You want to turn on the heater? I never like the heater being on because I'm a hot-blooded. So he escaped from jail in the back of a garbage truck with a carnival, and he gets remarried again. This time, his marriage only lasted 2 weeks.
Smart woman.
Why?
It doesn't say. Like, her name is hidden because I'm pretty sure she was a minor.
Oh.
His first wife was at least 17. So, but he then became involved with Betty Gates. The two went to Tennessee to bail out Gates's brother, but when Gaskins arrived back at the hotel, he was in for a surprise. He found out that Gates's brother was actually her husband. And he had recently escaped from prison. The police arrived at the hotel, and it didn't take them long to realize that he was an escaped convict. He was sent back to prison, not just one, but both of them, Gaskins and Gates's brother.
It was a 2-for-1 deal.
It was a 2-for-1 deal. Welcome to Kmart.
Loving it, BOGO.
Buy one prisoner, get the second one free. He was sent back to prison with an extra 9 months for aiding with the escape of a prisoner. He stayed in jail until he was paroled in 1961 for good behavior.
It's like, it's not, he's like, I might as well just stay this time.
Right. Like, I don't care. So once he released from prison, he reverted back to committing burglaries and selling stolen property.
Of course.
2 years after he was paroled in 1962, he was arrested for statutory rape. Yeah, again. But this time of a 12-year-old girl.
What the fuck?
So instead of staying in North Carolina, he escaped, or South Carolina, he escaped to North Carolina in a stolen car. So now he's got statutory rape, grand theft auto, and fleeing the state, which is bad, right?
Fugitive from justice.
Fugitive from justice. Once in North Carolina, he met a 17-year-old girl whom he married. Yep.
Of course.
She eventually turned him into the police for statutory rape. She was a smart one. And he received 6 years in the Columbia Penitentiary. So that's one of the bad jails in North Carolina. Columbia was
rough.
Is a word. That is a word. In November of 1968, he was paroled and made a vow to never return to North Carolina again.
I mean, I don't blame him.
He then said he would never go back to jail. So he was stating he would never get caught. Right. So after being paroled, he moved to South Carolina to Sumter and began working with a roofing company. I'm noticing a pattern with most of our serial killers. They work for construction companies.
I feel like it's such an easy industry to, like, because you learn it by trade, and it's easy to hide in. Because you're just one of the crew. Well, and for the most part, people don't ask questions. It's like mechanics.
I have a lot of questions.
We're not roofers.
Or mechanics.
So.
But I mean, it also gives them access to tools to hide the bodies.
Right. Right. But I mean, like, what would he do? Like, encase them in somebody's roof?
He can make concrete, guys.
Oh. I didn't think about that.
See, but it's bad to hide a body in concrete because eventually it's just going to cave in. Because it's going to create air pockets.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I should know.
But also, you have the construction tools to dig holes. Like nowadays, so you have the backhoes, the excavators, all that stuff. But also having, access to tarps and, that kind of stuff. Nobody's going to think twice about a construction truck rolling around with, a rolled up tarp sticking in the back of it.
Right.
Industrial dump sites.
Yep.
Let us
They didn't have what is this, like the 60s?
60s, yeah.
They barely had, like, the EPA and other government regulations.
Oh, yeah.
We had a baby FDA. We had a baby FDA.
It was still in its infant stages.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. So, Pee Wee claimed that his first murder victim was a blonde female hitchhiker who he tortured and subsequently murdered in 1969. So 1969 was like the time of the Zodiac Killer, Son of Sam. It was also Woodstock and a bunch of other shit, right? So everybody was just like, I'll hitchhike cross country and no issues. There are a lot. We always say, do not get in cars with strangers, people.
This is why we learned.
This is why. This is why. This is how you get murdered. In his bio,
before we had like 360.
Everybody has location. In his biography, Pee Wee wrote, "All I could think about is how I could do anything I wanted to her. She was one of my first. She was one of my first many hitchhikers. He had picked up and murdered along the coastal highways. This one of many. He classified these victims as coastal kills, both men and women killing purely out of pleasure, every 6 weeks when he went hunting to fill the void of," he wrote this is an actual saying, he used it to fill the void of bothersomeness. Bothersomeness.
What specific coastal highways?
The East Coast.
Oh no.
That's not much help. There's a lot of highways on the East Coast.
So the one that's on South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, the one that goes all the way up the side coast.
Are we talking like 95 or?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. And it goes through a lot of like
on that road.
I've been on that road. To be fair, it is haunted.
It is haunted. It is so fucking haunted.
Jacksonville to Fort Bragg on that road.
Yeah. I drove it coming here.
The whole time.
I drove it coming here in the dark. It's not fun.
You make smart choices.
I never said I was a smart woman.
Yes, you have, and you are.
You're book smart, not so much street smart.
Okay, you know what? I was look. Honey, darling, love of my life. Can I have some more cafe?
No, no more cafe for you.
I would love some more cafe.
Cafe, por favor.
Thank you.
I
love you. He's so cute.
What's please in Italian? Do we know? Off the top of our heads?
Italian?
Italian?
Yeah, please.
It's
Grazie.
Italian is
Grazie is
similar
thank
to
you. So por favore.
Yeah, I was about to say it's very similar to Spanish.
It takes me a second. So my grandfather spoke Italian. My grandmother spoke Spanish. So the two of them would argue in their subsequent languages, and they understood each other. It was very funny because I knew how
the root of everything is still the same.
Yes, it's still Latin.
The dialect was different.
Right. But what was funny is that by the time I was 8 years old, I learned how to cuss out your mother in 2 different languages.
Just from them babysitting.
Just from them babysitting. I also learned
I love your nails.
My nails.
They're so pretty.
Josh picked
them.
They're
so sparkly.
I had him pick
I'm finally being able to do my nails.
So the builder gel that I have, it comes off with a little bit of soaking. So if I were to fully submerge my hands in water, which I don't, I use gloves when I wash dishes. But these ones I have to leave on for a while because this nail, I accidentally hit it when I was cleaning the kitchen and I broke it down to the meat. So I have the nail on to protect it. But the way that I do it, Rachel can tell you, they last for weeks as long as I don't break them. But I cut my thumbs.
How do you wash your hair then?
I wash my hair with a little scrubby brush.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
But I mean, I'd go like this just as long as my hands aren't underwater submerged.
Okay.
And soak.
Because I was like, how the hell do you shower then?
Oh, I with a loofah. No. Fuck loofahs. That's how we get ripped out piercings.
It does hurt.
It does. He claimed to torture and mutilate his victim. I misspelled mutilate. It said mutilate.
It's better than titillate.
Titillate.
That's true.
Hey.
He comes in just for that.
He claimed to torture and mutilate his victims as he tried to keep them alive for as long as humanly possible. He later told that he killed them all using different methods. Stabbing, suffocation, and mutilation as well. Wait for it. Eating the flesh off of some of his victims' bones in front of the other victims.
Oh.
That's why I wanted to wait to discuss the cannibalism, because he only did it
all
perfect.
the boxes.
All the boxes. Pee-wee confessed.
He took it a step further.
He did. It wasn't just a Buffalo Bill moment. No, it was very much like, you want to see me eat this leg? I'm going to eat this leg. That's not a knife. This is a knife. It's very much a Crocodile Dundee moment. You know?
This is a Bones episode. No one can tell me. Or a Criminal Minds episode. No one can tell me otherwise.
I saw one the other day. That was AJ and the brunette. And they were in a room. And she was talking to the brunette, AJ was. And then the guy goes, excuse me. And she goes, shh. The adults are talking. When we are done talking, you can speak. And I just went.
I remember that episode.
Man.
It's because he had something to do with women in authority.
Yeah. So we're going to take a pause from the crime story. They used an actual basis of a real case.
Mm-hmm.
It was, women and children trafficked, and men. There was a pedophile ring based out of the UK and New Zealand and South America and Australia that made its way over to the United States eventually, called The Family. Which I can actually do a case on that if we get comments on this video that says to do the case on that. I started working on it, and it was almost at 50 pages. It will be a 2-parter episode, but if you guys want me to do that case, it's pretty bad. It involves murder, but it only involves the family just a little bit.
Yeah.
So back to the story at hand. Pee-wee confessed to killing between 80 to 90 victims. He was unsure as he forgot. Even though his statements had been documented as him committing coastal kills, these stories were never confirmed. He originally stated in his memoirs that he would kill every 6 weeks. However, he later stated something that contradicted it. He wrote stating he needed to commit a murder every 10th day of the calendar month, which is more than 6 weeks, or less than 6 weeks. He also named 3 people that he later classified as his most serious murders, ones that he took more seriously than the others, which means he spent more time with them.
Of course.
An African-American couple named Eddie and Bertie Brown, possibly aged 20 to 24, that he murdered in 72 and buried behind the tenant house. And a man named Horace Jones, 40 years of age, who he said he murdered in 74. In November of 1970, though, Pee-wee committed the first series of confirmed kills, mainly people whom he actually knew. He just decided to kill them for personal reasons. Like, she stole my jam or something like that. I don't know.
Because he was just looking for any kind of reason.
Right. So, of course, the first one was his own niece. Of course, because she's under the age, right? Janice Kirby, aged 15, and her friend Patricia Ann Alsbrook, 17, both of which were bludgeoned to death. He said he was enraged at their drug abuse, while others claimed that he was trying to sexually assault them. He lured the 2 girls to an abandoned house where he attempted to rape them, and upon failing to do so, he beat them to death. He then claimed to poison Martha Ann Dix Jr., also known as Clyde, I don't know why, age 20, in March 1971 or 72, either because of a rumor that he was the father of her unborn child. She genuinely only dated women, but was known to mess around with men, especially him. Or he killed her out of revenge because she was an alleged drug dealer who supplied his niece and her friend, or because she got married and left Texas to be with her wife.
It could be, multiple different reasons.
Multiple different reasons. I don't think it was because she was a drug dealer. I think it's because she was a lesbian.
And she refused his advances, most likely.
Right. Not only was he a murderer, but as luck would have it, he was also an overt racist.
Somehow I'm not surprised at all.
No, not at all. It's the South. It's the South. So, Pee-wee admitted to raping both Doreen Hope Dempsey, 22, and her 2-year-old daughter.
What the fuck?
Robin Michelle Dempsey in 73, June. Pee-wee had befriended her several years before and became enraged upon hearing that she had become pregnant a second time with another man, this one being black. She had been living with his friend, Johnny Sellers, and brother Carl Sellers in North Charleston, South Carolina. They brought her to his home in Prospect and left her there to speak with him about staying with him a short time while she was pregnant. Upset that Doreen was having a second biracial child, Pee-wee responded by giving her a lift to the bus station. Pee-wee didn't give her a lift to the bus station.
Well, just not a mortal bus station.
No. Mm-mm. Pee-wee offered a ride.
I deal with things with very dark humor.
No, you're fine. We all know this. We research true crime. Of course, we're gonna deal with things morbidly. Pee-wee offered Doreen and Robin a ride. However, instead of the depot, he went to a remote wooden area, raped, sodomized, and murdered Dempsey in front of her child, and then raped and killed her daughter as well.
Like, he could have just killed the child. Like, he didn't have to do the other things.
I know, but this guy was mentally... So, there was no... Considering the fact that... He was beyond help.
Puffs.
Yeah. So, the research that I've done, I didn't go too deep into one of the articles because it was very graphic. It stated all the horrible things that his male relative did, and I didn't want to put that in here. So I figure if I have the least amount of descriptors as possible, I think we'll be fine. It doesn't make up for it, though.
Not at all.
So, not only did he murder them, he drowned them as well. So once they were already dead, they weren't physically actually dead yet. So he held them under until they completely drowned. Once he was done, he cut off and ate part of Doreen's leg.
I mean, he cut off what? Sorry, it kind of cut out for a second there.
He cut off and ate part of Doreen's leg.
Because my brain said face when it just kind of...
No.
When sound kind of cut out for a second there. And I was like...
It's not Ed Gein. We haven't discussed Ed Gein yet. Not yet.
I had you repeat that because I was like, hold on, I want to make sure.
And it's not Jeffrey Dahmer, People Dahmer. No. We haven't discussed those yet. No, just Pee-wee.
That's for later.
That's for later. Later. So next we have Silas Barnwell Yates, age 45. He was murdered in February of 75 by having his throat slit by Pee-wee as a murder for hire. This is where we know for a fact he's got more than just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, okay? The forensics showed it was a knife, but Pee-wee disputed this, saying he killed him with a karate chop.
A karate chop doesn't slice somebody's throat.
Mm-hmm. So
unless you're, Edward Scissorhands.
As Mike says. The victim, Silas, was in a heated dispute with his ex-girlfriend, Suzanne Kipper Owens, who was married at the time they were together, and she and her husband, John Owens, paid Pee-wee $1,500 to murder him. So she was cheating on her husband, John. Her and her husband didn't want Yates to continue living, so they paid Pee Wee to kill him. Why couldn't you just, dump him?
Simple solutions.
Logic. Logic, people.
But alas, here we are.
But alas, here we are. I love that. Diane Bellamy Neely, age 25, was separated from her husband, Walter Neely, who was one of Pee Wee's closest friends and one of his criminal collaborators. Yes, Pee Wee had friends.
All I can think of is, how close of a friend is he if you just killed his estranged spouse?
Well, he hasn't killed her yet. On April 10th of 75, Pee Wee stabbed Diane to death and shot her boyfriend, Avery Leroy Howard. A lot of people, infidelity here. Among other reasons, Pee Wee murdered Diane because she had threatened to report to the police that Pee Wee was allowing underage teens to have sex in his home. Let's just digest that for just a second.
So where I'm baffled.
Aside from the whole thing.
Yes.
Besides that.
It's the combination where he is somehow known in his community as someone you can hire for a murder.
Mm-hmm.
And also the teenagers are just like, yeah, we're gonna go to this guy's house to have sex with each other.
And also, subsequently, he can give you a new roof.
Yup, because he got them workers' hands, apparently.
And hide bodies.
He was multifaceted.
And yet he wasn't even a good murder for hire, because
he got caught
killing both of them, like both sides.
But here's the thing.
You know what? This isn't...
The person that hired him, he didn't kill. So his friend, Walter Neely, Mr. Neely, he hired him. So Pee Wee had killed Walter's wife. And then Avery, the boyfriend, was murdered because he asked for money to pay for attorneys and cover legal expenses following his arrest for fraud and auto theft. So Pee Wee was worried that Avery was going to tell the cops about his nefarious affairs, as he stated. I know.
There's so much to unpack there. Like,
the faces,
touching it.
The faces that y'all are making. Sam's like, and Rachel, you're like,
I just,
it's the shaking
back to the community and the time of like, I know the internet doesn't exist. I know that it was a lot easier to lie about who you are and keep things under wraps. But he's in a small town at this point.
He is in a small town.
Small towns talk. Small southern towns talk.
They do talk, let me tell you.
And the fact everybody knows about him, but not doing anything to stop it either.
No.
So much to... Oh my god.
So this is roughly around the time.
If he was going after pedophiles or going after people that, all right, the cops refuse to do something about this.
Right.
Understandable.
I'm gonna not tell anybody. That's fine. You're knowingly enabling him.
Right.
Right.
There was a case that I was working on where he was murdering pedophiles. He wasn't actually murdering pedophiles. He was murdering people that he thought were pedophiles. And that was the one
the difference.
That was the case that I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore, because I'd gotten 50 pages in and I was like, I can't sleep. Like, this is a problem. Normally I can watch true crime or research true crime and be perfectly fine. This is an issue. I can't do this case.
Yeah.
Sure.
So are you ready to get Pee Wee down to the bottom? All right.
The lake? Yes.
All right. So Kim Gelkins, we talked about her earlier. Do you remember Kim? Talked to her at the way beginning. Age 13.
Yes.
Stabbed to death. She was stabbed to keep her from telling police that Pee Wee had moved her from North Charleston without permission from her parents, and to keep her from telling police that she was being sexually abused by several adult men, including Pee-wee, Dennis Bellamy, age 27, John Henry Knight, age 15. After the disappearance of Gaskins, the authorities began to become suspicious of Pee-wee and his activities. After searching his apartment, though, they found clothing that had been worn by Kim. Pee-wee was indicted for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. So they haven't even dealt with the whole missing thing, because she's gone, right?
They probably just think she ran away or something, because
yes,
at this point, it's the 70s.
Right. So Dennis Bellamy and John Henry were brothers, half-brothers, and Diane was their half-sister. Pee-wee had promised to pay Dennis for some stolen guns. When confronted by Dennis at Pee-wee's trailer home in Prospect, South Carolina, he responded by offering to return the guns to him in the woods behind his house. Do you think that's what happened?
That's not a setup at all.
No, not at all, because he took Dennis into the woods to retrieve the guns, and later his brother John, but murdered them both.
Of course.
Pikachu shock face. Saw that coming a mile away.
Pee-wee shot the two brothers in the back of the head on October 10th, 1975, killing them within minutes of each other. So how do you not hear the first gunshot?
I mean, maybe he well insulated his trailer?
His shed.
Construction?
His shed. He was in the shed out back.
Ah.
November 14th, 75, Pee-wee was arrested for the last time once Walter Neely found God.
What?
He confessed to the police that he had witnessed Pee-wee murder two people, the brothers, John and Dennis.
He started singing like a canary.
Yep. Walter cracked while waiting for the trial and showed the police where Pee-wee's private cemetery was.
Oh, Jesus.
In the cemetery, they found the bodies of the following people: Sellers, Judy, Howard, Diane Neely, Johnny Knight, Dennis Bellamy, Doreen Dempsey, and her toddler, Robin. In April of 76, on the 27th, Gaskins and Walter were charged with 8 counts of murder.
And that's just the bodies they found.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Not including the bodies that they didn't find that he said he scattered all over the coastal highways.
Yep.
May 24th of 76, the jury convicted Gaskins of the murder of Dennis Bellamy, and he was sentenced to death. Jury deliberation only took 47 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Before finding Pee-wee guilty for the murder of one of the 8 victims, Dennis Bellamy, and sentencing him to death by the electric chair. That death sentence was overturned by South Carolina Supreme Court in February of 78. Rather than facing a new trial, Pee-wee pled guilty to the murders of Bellamy and the 8 other friends and associates. He was then given 10 concurrent light sentences to be served at Central Correction Institution, or CCI, in Columbia, South Carolina.
Good.
The reason it was overturned...
So close.
The reason it was overturned? In 78, South Carolina removed the death penalty.
Yep. He's so close.
So close.
Never mind.
And
I feel like if you've already been given a sentence, had a trial of your peers, have found and admitted to killing these people, and you have a death sentence, whether or not the state revokes it or not, does away with the death sentence, if you've already been tried and that is your sentence, it should still be carried out.
Right.
Well,
I agree.
It should just be transferred to, okay, they want to get rid of the death penalty.
We'll just transfer you across state lines to somebody else.
Well, I was going to say life in prison without the possibility of parole. It's almost the same thing. You just die a bit different.
Yeah, but it also ends up costing more because depending on how old they are.
Yeah, how old was he? Do we know?
I don't know. She walked away.
Yeah, Destiny.
Because like, if he's much older and like he doesn't have much time left in movies, okay, yeah, we'll just let him live out his few years. But if like he's like middle age or like younger, like then yeah, just go ahead and transfer him to a different state, and have them finish out the sentence kind of thing. But
I feel like
because
they would have to like hold a new trial in that state to imprison.
Probably. Or like just go, okay, these are the collective ones that have the the death sentence, and they've admitted their guilt. Like there's no shadow of a doubt that they are actually guilty.
Mm.
Then we'll go ahead and carry out their sentence because grandfathered in policy kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then go from there. And then like any new trials, it's life without possibility of parole, no death sentence.
Welcome back.
I had a walnut.
So how old was he when he was sentenced?
Okay, so he was sentenced in 76, right?
Mm-hmm.
And born in
33.
33.
So he was 43. Like freshly turned 43.
So middle age. So he still has a lot of life left ahead of him. So just go ahead.
Just knock him out,
Yeah. Severe TBI.
He was the kind to work under and within and around the law. I'm sure they could find something.
Right.
I'm not advocating for the state to do that.
No. But like I said, while Cat was gone,
Gen Pop with child killers do be a thing.
Yeah. Like the ones that, grandfathered in policy kind of thing.
Oh!
Like, okay, these are, ones that are for sure guilty and have death sentences. We're going to carry those out. But anybody else, like any new trials, not a possibility kind of thing.
Right. So I apparently missed a lot when I went to use the facilities. We're just going to keep going because I'll listen to this when I edit it and then I'll be like, shit.
Yeah, we were talking about like the legality of like him having a new trial and stuff.
If they turned like just kind of took him to like across state lines to kill him.
Because on one hand it does suck because like when you look at death row cases, there are, and like the justice system in general, like there are a lot of people who are innocent who are put in prison, and some of them, like innocent people, have died from the death penalty in prison, and so I get why, and so that makes me a bit more understanding of why they had like a new trial. They're like, all right, here are the most updated facts, and then but he was released, or what happened? I forget.
Okay, so he was in for 10 consecutive life sentences, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was already in for these 10 life sentences. So he's not getting out at all anytime soon. In an attempt to avoid additional death sentences.
Of course.
He later confessed to 7 more murders. Additionally, he was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences for 13 murders. Then he decided, while in jail, why not just commit one more?
He didn't know when to quit.
Rudolph Tyner, age 23, was on death row in CCI, March 1978, for a double murder when he was murdered by Pee Wee on September 12th of 82. Rudolph was appealing his own sentence after being convicted of robbing Murrells Inlet convenience store and killing the store owners Bill and Myrtle Moon.
Was it like accidental or?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
He robbed them.
Because sometimes,
and then,
well, I mean, but sometimes, you rob people and accidental deaths happen. But he intentionally killed them.
yes.
Okay. That's the difference. Like, if it was an accidental death, completely understandable.
Right.
But he intentionally killed them. That makes all the difference.
Right. So March 18th. So this is the end of March of 78 where he meets Rudolph, right?
Mm-hmm.
So March 17th or March 18th, the Moons died. Oh, the Moons.
Mm-hmm.
The Moon's son, Tony Simo, different last name, hired Pee-wee for $2,000 to kill Rudolph on the inside. Because in Simo's opinion, the appeals process was taking too long for him to get out.
I mean,
All right.
I kind of understand that.
I mean, I get it, but still. So Pee-wee made several unsuccessful initial attempts to kill Rudolph by lacing his food and drink with poison before he opted to using explosives to kill him. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at the fact he's dead. I'm laughing at the fact that he went from poison to explosives. Like,
That's an escalation.
Go boom.
like this cyanide is not working. I have TNT. It's like that guy from It's like that guy from Atlantis. The explosives. That's fine. I have several sticks of dynamite. So, Tony asked Pee-wee what he needed in order to kill Tyner. He told him to insert some C4 inside the heel of a shoe and mail it to him. This way that Pee-wee obtained the plastic explosives with a blasting cap, a long wire, and a radio speaker to create an imitation intercom system.
I mean, that's pretty ingenious to do, like doing it for a shoe.
Right.
Like putting it all in a shoe. Because back then, they also didn't
inspect
as intensely as they do now.
Right. Have you guys ever seen the movie The Longest Yard?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is going to fall on your deaf ears, Sam, but Rachel, you know what's going to happen next. This fake speaker that unknowing Rudolph put to his ear to test. Pee-wee then detonated by plugging the wire into a prison cell outlet.
Go boom.
Pee-wee later said, "The last thing Rudolph heard was me laughing."
That's kind of legend, though.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
Which is exactly what happened in the movie The Longest Yard. The guy was laughing, and the last thing that the victim heard was the dude laughing. He was tried for Rudolph's murder and sentenced to death. So by this point, Rudolph is dead. Pee-wee's already exhausted his appeals.
I mean, I'd hope he would be. If by that point he had a bomb on
I
his
know,
head.
seriously. All that TNT, those plastic explosives.
Like, otherwise, that's a fucked up zombie.
Oh. I'm sorry.
We good?
He was tried for Rudolph's murder and sentenced to death. It was the first time in the history of South Carolina that a white man was sentenced to the death of a black man. Rudolph's murder was a contract killing for which Pee-wee received the death penalty. While waiting on death row, Pee-wee stated that he committed between 100 to 110 murders, including Margaret Peg Catino, the 13-year-old daughter of the South Carolina State Senator James Catino Jr. of Sumter. These murders were widely disputed, and there has been no evidence to support his findings.
There's no evidence to support it, but there's no evidence to
not support it.
Disprove it either.
Right. So most death row inmates, especially at this time, decided to write books. PeeWee was also
nothing else to do.
PeeWee was also one of them. He started working with an author. He started working with a writer by the name of Wilton Earl on a book entitled The Final Truth. The quote is just, as we said, bothersome earlier. It's bothersome to me. This book was published in 1993, discussing the murders and the bothersome feelings PeeWee felt throughout his life. He quoted, "I will die knowing there are others coming along to take my place. Most of them will never get caught. I'll die peaceful because my name is going to live as long as men have memories of me." PeeWee didn't die a peaceful death. On the day of his execution, he regurgitated a razor blade and proceeded to cross the street, not go up the road, cross the street. In a last attempt to avoid the electric chair. That didn't work, however. The nurses stitched him up.
All they're going to do is...
and sent him on his way.
They're just going to slap Band-Aids on you and... Oh, that's fine. Let's go anyways.
So they cauterized the wound, stitched him up, and sent him back.
Yeah.
The infirmary was like, "We're not having anything to do with this. You're getting murdered today.
You're not dying on our hands, so you want to die by somebody else."
So he was sent to the infirmary, got 21 stitches total, and sent back to the electric chair with stitched arms, and was promptly electrocuted.
What a time.
So he died at the age of 58 in South Carolina electric chair at 1:10 a.m. on September 6th of 1991.
Because they did it in, the wee hours of the morning, so that way the power surging fluctuations didn't disturb anybody else.
Right. It is
considerate death.
Huh?
I love considerate death.
It is unknown as
They're considerate of other people.
Right, they're considerate of other people when it comes to the electric chair, but now with like the lethal injection stuff like that, they do them at all times of the day because it doesn't cause power fluctuations. But there's only 3 states that still do the electric chair.
Yeah.
And they also do hangings as well. It is unknown as to how many murders PeeWee actually committed, since the information was never provided for all of the bodies.
Also, they didn't find all the bodies, so...
Well, the ones that I
it's hard to
discussed...
tell.
The one that I discussed earlier, the blonde female hitchhiker, she is a Jane Doe. Her name is not known, and she is still considered one of the missing.
Yeah. Because
he didn't have a name for her. But they did find a blonde female hitchhiker when they were looking at their records. Maybe he just wanted to be known as the most prolific serial killer in South Carolina. But one thing we know for certain is that Donald Pee Wee Gaskins was a psychopath with no regard for human life.
That's for sure.
Or moral compass or anything.
I don't
Not
think...
a thought in his brain, but murder.
Right. My goodness. Meg is reading. But that was the story of Donald Pee Wee Gaskins.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I'd heard the name, had not really delved into everything that he did. I'm just hung up on how the time period contributed to all of what he was able to do. Like, from the prison escapes to the being a local murder for hire in the community.
Mm-hmm.
That part.
Yeah.
And while at the same time having teenagers over at his house.
For random quote-unquote sex parties. Because that's a thing.
That's so gross.
Right.
What I can understand, like, especially at that time, that there were so many illegitimate children. What I have a hard time dealing with is the fact that none of the older kids tried to protect him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's messed up.
Right. So it wasn't just like, I dealt with this, I'm going to have to deal with X, Y, and Z. It's the fact that he dealt with it. He had older brothers and sisters, but they just turned a blind eye and just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He never really stood a chance.
Right.
He really didn't.
But also was just surrounded by enablers and people who were just like, all right, I'm going to pass the buck along.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to deal with this.
Right. But I mean, we did discuss quite a few different things, especially, considering. I mean, I have the stuff already saved if people want me to discuss the originations of the family, or that case that I was working on earlier, which is the Snowtown murders. I'll leave that up to the community, because I will finish it if other people want to hear about it, but I'm not going to continue it unless other people want me to.
Right.
No sense losing sleep,
Mm-hmm.
I did not have fun researching this.
No fun at all.
No, there were photos, and I'm not.
Oh, that's awful.
Mm-hmm. It was not fun, to say the least. But what I did
Definitely not.
I did have fun researching is the fact that they discussed several movies that were made subsequent to look like what Gaskins had done, like The Longest Yard, how he had made the intercom system, and a couple of the other things that he had done that were poor taste and poor judgment, to say the least. So it was Emily's time today, but she's in the middle of moving.
Yes.
They are quite deceased.
Yes, they are quite dead. Not literally.
Moving's awful.
Moving's terrible, but their house that they're looking into getting is
so pretty.
Beautiful, and it's wheelchair accessible.
Yay.
For the husband, so
we love that.
We do.
Yeah, first floor, primary bedroom.
Right next to the kitchen.
Ramp. Yeah, it already has a ramp. Yeah, we're excited.
That's awesome.
The ordered us dinner. So they have pizza at home on top of, like, we ordered Freddy's because we wanted cookout, but they didn't deliver and we weren't leaving the house. And then I made dinner. I just put like a chicken pot pie crock pot recipe, and like I threw that together before I knew the Van Pattens were sending us dinner.
Oh man.
All the food.
Yeah. So they have dinner tonight, they have lunch today. Like they're solid.
We're making Mississippi pot roast.
Yeah, you were saying that.
And then that project that I'm working on, which Rachel can say what I'm working on. I can't say it.
Yeah. She is knitting him a blanket.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to work on that when he's at work, aside from editing the podcast. So, I'm going to do that. And then,
take a nap somewhere.
I was going to take a nap yesterday.
That didn't happen.
Did not happen. But I did end up making homemade chicken tenders.
How'd that turn out?
It was actually really, really good. I taught Josh on how to make the chicken tenders so they didn't taste bland, which you put the seasoning on the chicken, you put it in the seasoning, and you put it in the flour. If you miss any one of those steps, it's going to taste bland. But I have a couple of more different serial killers I'm going to add to my research list. I have a couple of spooky places I'm adding. One of them requested was the Cecil Hotel. Yeah, another one requested was the Golden Gate Bridge.
Ooh.
Right. My cousin requested that one. That one is super haunted.
Yeah.
As I lived in San Francisco, I never walked the bridge because there's stuff. But
between the workers and then the jumpers and then just the car accidents, it's a hot spot.
So it was requested, so I'll put it on my list. And then if the listeners want me to do the Snowtown murders, Bailey Sarian did a double video, which is where I'm getting a good chunk of my notes from, aside from getting them from about 12 different sources. I wouldn't mind doing the research on that again, or continuing the research on it rather, but I'm at 50 pages.
Yeah.
Of
it's
just
a lot.
Bullet points. Yeah. But the main person that was one of the victims apparently worked for the family.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Because they had to have an end somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Well, she ran a pedophile ring in Australia. So that's fun. Anyways, I have no idea what we're doing next week, but we'll figure it out. If Emily comes on, then she'll do it. If Emily comes on, she'll do it. If she's unable to come on, Rachel, would you like to do the story for next week?
I'll get something prepped.
Okay, just in case. Because
backup plans.
Backup plans. We fly by the seat of our pants here at the Pandemonium. Because Pandemonium
we fly by the seat of our pants, but we still like having a backup plan. Just in case.
We do.
My anxiety won't let me do anything else.
But stay tuned for the month of May, which we're going to record in the next 2 weeks with a special guest. Because we're doing Murderous Nurses.
I gotta get her schedule, so.
Yeah. Find out her schedule, and then we'll work around it.
Yep.
All right, guys. I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Next time on the Pandemonium Witches.
I mean, we could just call him Dick, which is a nickname for Richard.
Let's talk about Dick. He was an American suspected serial killer who murdered and dismembered 2 gay and bisexual men between 1992 and 1993. So anyways, even though he was tried for 2, he has stated that he has killed 7 or more.